William Reed was born in Mont Alto in 1869. He was educated in the local schools in the village. His reputation was one of honesty, never causing any trouble. He worked up about the farms and orchards in the area before enlisting in 1898 in the 46th Pennsylvania Volunteers and spent his enlistment time in the Philippines. Returning from there, he worked around the forestry school in Mont Alto and became acquainted with Sadie, or Sarah Mantha. Sarah, born Hurley, married a Mantha who deserted her, leaving her with a daughter and the need to support herself by working at the forestry school. Sadie and William became more than friends, and eventually moving in together in 1909. However, in August 1910, Sadie left for Chambersburg and worked at the Miller Hotel, where her mother was employed. Reed came to Chambersburg on weekends to visit her. In April of 1911, Reed and a friend, Romaine Small, made a trip west, and when they returned, Reed was jealous over the attentions Sadie was receiving from other men. On May 9th of 1911, Reed went to the academy kitchen where Sadie was working. The matron was in the garden, heard 3 shots ring out, and ran into the house. Reed came out of the house and stuck his big revolver into his pocket, saying, "I have just shot Sadie and have done for her." Investigation of the corpse showed 1 bullet through her left breast into her heart, 1 in the back of her neck, and 1 in the left cheek, which lodged in her skull. Reed gave himself up to the local magistrate and was brought to the jail. By May 18th, after a coroner's inquest, he was bound over for trial, scheduled for the September term. Trial began on September 7th with Judge W. Rush Gillen presiding. The chosen jury consisted of 12 good men. Remember, ladies, this is 1911. You don't get the privileges like sitting on a jury. Attorneys Elder and Hoke were assigned as co-counsel. The DA prosecuting the case was Daniel Long, who intended to show the intent for premeditation, that Reed tried to borrow a revolver, and finally did, to shoot the woman. He called 5 witnesses to prove that on 3 separate occasions, Reed declared he would kill Sadie. The next day, September 8th, the attorney Elder outlined the defense, that Reed was guilty of a certain crime, but not of murder in the first degree, that he was just over a bout of drinking and his mind was inflamed with alcohol, that he was angry when Sadie burned one of his army papers, and that Sadie held a coffee grinder as to threaten him. So he pulled the revolver and shot to scare her. The jury was out for 28 hours and came back with a verdict of murder in the first degree. A motion to appeal was made and denied, and on October 3rd, Judge Gillen sentenced him to be hanged. The case was appealed to the Supreme Court, but denied, and later the Board of Pardons refused to get involved. On April 1st, a death warrant was issued by Governor Tenner, setting for April 30th as a day of execution. Sometime in the next few weeks, Reed was removed from his cell on the first floor to isolate him from the other prisoners, and moved to the 3rd floor of the women's quarters on the west side for the death watch. During the day, he would look out the window and wave to people walking by the jail, and also to the children next door at King Street School. On the drizzly morning of April 30th, Reed, dressed in a black suit, white shirt, and a tie, he walked out over the gangway built from the back porch of the jail to the gallows, which stood opposite against the southeast corner of the new jail wing, between the old and the new building towards 2nd Street. The procession includes Reed, Sheriff Walker, Deputy Ellsworth Kuhn, while 50 men were waiting to watch the execution. Many people had gathered outside, hoping to glimpse the process, but were prevented by a makeshift canvas over the gallows. Sheriff Walker placed a black cloth, open at one end with a slit over Reed's head, after placing the noose around his neck. His ankles were strapped, and he was handcuffed. With no word spoken, the sheriff indicated to release the drop, and the body fell over 6 feet down at exactly 10:06 a.m. There was no struggle, and the coroner pronounced him dead, evident that Reed's neck was broken by the fall. His body was taken to one of the jail rooms and prepared for burial and placed in a gray embossed plush-covered casket with silver handles. His remains were taken to Mont Alto by his friend and funeral director Maurice Jacobs, with services by the spiritual advisor, Reverend Dr. Creamer. He was buried by his parents in the local cemetery. The newspapers at the time quoted that the execution was as humane as it could be, and there was dignity and solemnness about it.